is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55.
Oh, I'm going to have to answer text. I can tell already.
No, you won't. Whose top 5 is this? Mine. Brought to you by Champion Salon and Barber. 2 locations here in Waco.
This was a
and
suggestion,
downtown.
wasn't it? This one here? Yeah.
Yeah.
We like those.
Top 5 splash hires that failed. Top 5 splash hires that failed. Number 5, Will Muschamp at Florida. He was the coach in waiting at Texas. He was the hot assistant, the guy coming up. And Will Muschamp's been at Florida. He's been at South Carolina. And it's not worked out for him either place. Will Muschamp is an excellent defensive coach. Will Muschamp does not understand the forward pass. It's beyond him. He knows how to stop it. He doesn't know how to start it. It baffles me.
He may be 40 years or so too late.
Yeah.
To do what he did.
Maybe so. Maybe so. He's a fantastic defensive coordinator and will continue to be that whenever he gets back into coaching. Waits out his buyout from South Carolina. He'll be a great defensive coordinator again. Number 4, Tom Herman at Texas. Oh, he's doing great things at Houston. Man, that is it. He's the guy at Texas. He's the one who's going to turn it all around. Well, where is he now? Working for the Chicago Bears. Because the splash doesn't always work.
Well, you just mentioned Will Muschamp, and there's a common denominator with 2 programs. Now, he was never hired as the head coach at Texas, but remember, as you said, the coach in waiting. They
named him the coach in waiting when Mac Brown had no intention of retiring.
No, and I don't think that was not a very awkward situation. Yeah.
Well, I think Texas might have finally found the right guy in Steve Sarkisian, but Herman was just a goof. I mean, he really was. There was a time when he first got hired, I didn't know much about him, and Texas fans, a lot of them were pounding their chest and like, this is the guy. He used to coach here.
He's a GA here.
Yeah, he's a genius and this and that. And, I was like, okay, well, we'll see. Maybe this is really the guy. I even remember this tweet stuck with me, and I don't know why it always stuck with me, but I remember it vividly because it was the night when the whole LSU fiasco had happened with him. And, is he going to go to Texas or is LSU possibly going to get him or whatever? And some quote unquote insider for Texas was like, it's Tom. It's always been Tom. It was always going to be Tom, like a movie quote thing.
like the end of Jerry Maguire.
Yes, exactly. It was like that. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but that was the gist of it. And I was just like, okay. But then as soon as I got a little small sample size, I thought, yeah, this guy, I don't know how long he's going to last here. And sure enough.
He had the arrogance of what people who are Texas fans get accused of having.
Yes, so much
They
so.
really did. I mean, you hear how I position that, how they get accused of having. He was the walking billboard of what people sometimes think about UT, the fan base. And that's not all of you are like that. Most of them aren't. It's just that small, but they love offensive coordinators who won national titles, though, right? Yeah. Herman at Ohio State, and of course Sark at Alabama.
Yeah, Herman won a national title at Ohio State by giving Zeke Elliott the ball, and then after he didn't have Zeke Elliott anymore, he forgot that running back was a thing.
Yeah.
It's
the fact that Bijan Robinson didn't get an extra 50 carries last year is why he's also been fired.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3, Charlie Weis at Notre Dame. This was in the Belichick tree hire, and this will be perfect.
Money off a couple schools.
I think he just stopped making money off of Notre Dame, and he's still making money off of Kansas and Florida as their OC at Florida. Florida's paid out a lot of bad coaching contracts over the last few years, and they probably found their guy, Dan Mullen. It certainly looks like they have. He's a great fit there. But Charlie Weis at Notre Dame, this did not work out in the slightest.
I think he did really well
shape
at Kansas.
Shape or form.
Was he at Kansas?
Yeah, well, I mean, in Kansas, drove them even further into the ground. Yeah. When your program is already buried, and the guy goes, you know what? I've seen deeper holes, and that's what he did at Kansas. It was just bad all the way around.
One of the thoughts about Herman on the chat room was the fact that his record at Houston was 22-4, beat some highly ranked teams, including Oklahoma. We're not debating that.
No,
we're talking about it didn't work. But a lot of guys have great resumes. Look at Scott Frost at Nebraska.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to this next one. Number 2, Rich Rodriguez, dominating at West Virginia when he got hired at Michigan. He had West Virginia better than they'd been in a long, long time. He took the job at Michigan. He took over for Lloyd Carr, who was a great coach at Michigan that followed up another great coach in Bo Schembechler, the guys that won and won and won. And Rich Rodriguez was, started to Rich Rodriguez, then Brady Hoke, and now Jim Harbaugh's trying to get it back, and he's been up and down. But this was the guy who first ran the Michigan ship straight into the rocks. And it was a splash hire. Everyone was excited. He was going to bring this modern spread offense to Michigan that they weren't running in the Big Ten. It didn't work.
Well, it's because he had a triple X rated kind of culture. I mean, not triple X rated, but I mean there were like complaints about just the language they were using and just kind of the attitude of the coaching staff, and it wasn't real familial and things like that. And I thought, Rich Rod, now there's like every year there's 2 or 3 guys, but back in that time period where there was a lot less noise constantly going on all the time, I remember thinking like, oh, this is the next great, head coach somewhere, especially, and then he got that Michigan job and thinking, yeah, sure, Wolverines and Rich Rod, and no, it was not good at all. He had NCAA violations, and
And this one could be actually for 2 places, but I picked the one that's had the probably longer lasting problems. Number 1, Lane Kiffin at Tennessee.
Yeah, somebody on here mentioned Lane Kiffin. In fact, it was Lester Lee. Lane Kiffin,
number 1 at Tennessee. And Tennessee, I hope for their sake that Josh Heupel's the guy and that AD Danny White has righted that ship, because to me, I hate to see a program like Tennessee, 100,000 plus seat stadium, sad all the time. I mean, it's just not good for college football when the biggest dudes that can do some cool things are bad, and they've been bad. Part of the reason that Memphis is so ready to join a Power 5 conference, and I think would be great for the Big 12, is that, look, I understand that Memphis could not probably win in the SEC. They could win in the Big 12, but the reason that Tennessee has had so many problems is that each and every coach has lost their footing in Memphis because of Memphis. They don't have the foothold in Memphis anymore to get the talent in their own state. They don't have a national recruiting base at Tennessee anymore like they used to. They're long gone from the days of Peyton Manning. And of course, T. Martin won a national title there. They're long, long gone from that.
Yeah, I think Kiffin he let his mouth get the best of him in Tennessee quite often, and that wasn't even a totally popular choice.
To USC or the Raiders or whatever it was, I can't.
He went to USC.
Yeah.
But he was actually, he had a following there at Tennessee. I mean, the people felt like, he should have been given some more time, but he was a problem child. He got in so young too. You got to have to realize that too. He was a young coach at a couple of blue blood schools before he was even 35 years old.
And then the Raiders too.
Yeah, and not even counting the NFL. Yeah.
From Ammonia Wilder, what is this Tennessee you speak of?
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
From C. Jenkins, honestly, Tennessee hasn't been relevant since 2007, which is just slightly before the last time Nebraska was relevant. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of those big schools, football schools.
Go tell everybody about being a 90s kid, ask about the best college football teams, you say Nebraska and Miami and Florida State and Tennessee, and you throw Florida probably in there as well and a couple of others, but the main ones for the most part, Michigan, but for the most part they're all down from the and granted that's 30 years ago now at this point, but still, it's not what it used to be, that's for sure.
All right, thanks to Wally Hall, thanks to Jonas Pope IV on Arkansas and NC State, Grayson Grunhafer